Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our lovely episode. You're watching, or listening to Horror Nerds at Church, which is a ridiculously queer podcast where we take a deep dive into a horror film and talk about how it connects to queerness, religion, and theology. My name is Pace, and I am the Yellow Brick Road, I guess, heading somewhere. Who knows where? We'll find out.
And I'm Pastor Emily, and I am Uncle M.
Uncle M. I am Suzannah, and I'm Toto. I'm definitely Toto.
I
Gotcha.
love it.
Follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/horror nerds at church. Starting at only $5 to sign up. Dropping this month, you will get access to Halloween Season 3, Season of the Witch for our movie commentary, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I don't know what the other one is really called.
Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Of Sabrina. Guess who picked which one?
Uh,
Our BooTube. And if you are a horror buff, you get our episode on Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Plus, you get all of our bonus stuff from all of the past seasons, including Star Wars episodes, Predator movie commentaries, bonus Star Wars episodes, all sorts of things, plus merch discounts, plus more. It's delightful. And also, if we get 20 Patreon supporters, we will do a live playthrough thing of Thirsty Sword Lesbians, and you know you want to see us do that.
right. If you're listening to this episode on your favorite podcast provider, you can check the show notes for any content warnings for this episode, links to all the books we mention on our bookshop.org store. And if you're watching or listening, either way, you can check the show notes or pinned comment for links to our newsletter, merch store, Patreon, all those things. So,
Indeed.
a few quick announcements, and then we'll check in on how everyone's doing. But first, right now, it is spooky season, which means since it's officially October, it is our pet costume contest season. Submit your picture of your pet, of your plant, of your rock, of your stuffed animal, whatever you have, to us by going to bit.ly/HNACPETS24. The HNACP is all capitalized, HNAC Pets 24. Submit it by October 20th, and we will confer, the three of us, about which our five favorites are, and then we'll leave it up to you all to vote for your favorite. And you will be able to get, if you win, the grand prize, which is fan voted. You get a free merch shirt, and you get a DVD, Blu-ray, or 4K of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. If you already have that movie, we can figure something else out. But that's our main prize. And then we also will be having a special uh for one random person of all entries. We'll get a special picture of their pet illustrated by our own Emily Elizabeth Ewing. Woo!
I'm excited. It'll be a fun, not the hyper realistic drawings, but a fun drawing of your pet that should be quite recognizable as your pet.
I'm super excited. I wish I could submit Gandalf or Yoshi, just as I know Suzannah and Emily wish I could submit any of their pets, Bailey or Athena or the Nittens.
The
But
Nittens are
I would
not
love.
ours, so technically could be submitted by another
It's
person.
true. It's true. It's true. They better be submitted. Uh, if you're watching this, Nitten owners, I'm not gonna say who, you better
Brooke and
submit them.
Danny, I will call you out.
Yep.
Where are their costumes? We
Right.
have not purchased the costumes for our puppers yet, but I have them sitting in a cart in my Target app. So
My
also
costume
you can
for
see on screen you could see on screen Gandalf in his adorable outfit and my first
yeah.
ever pet costume contest grand prize winning Little Basil Shop of Horror. Because
Woo!
they're adorable.
I too have Gandalf's costume in a cart waiting to be checked out. So I will do so come payday.
Perfect.
Um, but I already have it planned. Also, we have new merch coming. I said it would come by the end of September. That didn't happen. It'll probably come by the end of this month. It's already designed. It looks fancy. It's our season 7 merch.
It's
Which
so cool.
is
I'm so
which?
excited. Which is
But
which?
I just need to take the time to put it into our merch store, which is a cumbersome process, which is why one of many reasons why we are going to get rid of our current merch store and replace it after the season. So if you
Mhm.
want any of the merch on there, now's the time to get it. I can't promise we'll be bringing all the designs to our new merch store when we get it.
It's true.
So now's your chance to get all the merch we have up there. So
It's true. However, unlike rainbow capitalisms, we will always have at least one Pride merch
it's
because
true. It's
we're
true.
not heathens.
Right?
Or maybe because we are.
We can't be the queerest horror podcast out there without having
Without having queer
year-round
merch
queer
all the time.
merch.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. I think that I may be wrong, and there are a lot of millions of podcasts out there, many small, tiny podcasts that are indie, just like ours, many big ones and stuff. But all the queer podcasts I know are primarily hosted by cis white guys, gay
Mm,
guys, and so we are one of the very few horror podcasts hosted by two trans people, as far as I know.
true.
So we
It's
might be
true.
the only ones. So
Oh, speaking of our merch,
yeah.
Suzannah has one of our merch mugs that is spectacular
Ah, yes.
because I'm calling it Munchkin Magic. Uh,
Hmm.
mine is in not a merch mug, but we'll show you a lovely shit show supervisor. But Susanna's merch mug. Oh no, you gotta hold it like in front of your face for people to see it. Why can't we see it? Oh, there we go. Church is horror.
UTS,
It was
as it
there.
kind of appears and disappears.
Yeah.
It is like Schrodinger's cat. It is both there and not, both alive and not.
Yes, but that is one of our favorite merches because so often, all too often, church is in fact horror.
And speaking of merch, I'm wearing another HNAC merch item, our Treat Yourself shirt from our season 4 on Nightmare on Elm Street. So, and
Love
I'm wearing,
that shirt so much.
right, Freddie
I feel like
getting his
Brittany has
nails
shirt.
done, a manicure.
Mhm.
Um, but
I'm not. I'm
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 wearing
wearing
this.
this shirt, which I
Oh,
know I already wore for our intro episode, but of all the
it's
days to wear
perfect.
it, today is the day. So I had to wear it again.
It's true. It's true. But Nightmare on Elm Street, y'all, this makes me feel old. And my birthday is this Friday, so like already I'm feeling old because of that. But I am one
Which is
year
an
younger than this.
accomplishment, just for the record.
True, true. Um, it it is sad that many queer elders were not able to make it to true elderhood because of capitalism and evilness and queerphobia and HIV AIDS and all the other things.
Mhm.
So I am happy I'm making it to my 39th year this year. But something that is 1 year older than me is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I'm wearing this shirt because of it. And also my subscriber cover issue of Fangoria came in the mail just this week, which also is
Mhm.
featuring a 40th anniversary cover dedicated to Nightmare on Elm Street. One of my favorite movies. It released in November of 1984. The one of I think it was like November 8th or something. So I can't believe my one of my favorite horror movies is 40 this year. I'm so proud watching it grow up alongside me because I was growing up too.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Uh,
I love it. All
yeah.
the birthdays this year
And,
too.
and on my birthday list, I have the they Nightmare on Elm Street has not received the love it deserves in physical media. There is a film collection on Blu-ray, which I have, of course, of the films, but they're not like, but like it's not the expansive collections we see of so many other horror franchises, like the beautiful
Hmm.
Friday the 13th cover uh box set that came out a few years ago. But finally, Nightmare on Elm Street is getting a 4K release this year in
Ooh.
honor of its 40th. And so that is on my birthday list. So if any of you
Ooh.
want to buy me a birthday present, I'd love the steel book of that. If not, I'll just buy it for myself
I mean,
because I love it so much.
I was debating singing happy birthday to you on our Facebook Live, but I'm not going to, but I'll sing happy birthday to you on your actual birthday.
Perfect. Perfect. And
Mhm.
Susanna's birthday was the last time we recorded a live. We were talking about Susanna's birthday and how your gift to yourself and to your household was giving everybody time to work on their back burner projects that are important but not urgent.
Ooh, true.
So I would
True.
say that I would like people to do the same, but I'm selfish, so just give me shit instead. Give me money.
No, it was really great because it let people like it let people like Brooke came running out of her room later, was like, I got up 5 levels in Call of Duty, and she had just gotten like 3 new female characters with different
Oh, that's
guns and
cool.
stuff, and Brooke loves to like kill boys with a gun named Meredith, and they're like, what kind of, so when she like comes in, they're like, what kind of name is Meredith, and then she kills them all. Like, it's great, it's wonderful to watch, and
I love it.
the joy. So like the really important thing that I learned is the next time that you do this and you say, okay, for my birthday, what I want, and also I expanded it, by the way. I got a pocket universe for a week, which is what
You
I
did.
really
Ooh.
needed, which is space for me to catch up on stuff. Like here, like creating a Notion template that says, here's all the things I need, and that kind of thing. And like, so I got my pocket universe, and don't forget to tell people when you give them the space to do the things that make them happy, it has to be something that they like have been putting off, but if they were to do, it
Yeah.
would make their life happy and that they really like to do. And everybody has one of these pet projects that they really like to do, and it would make their
Hmm.
life great, but it's not urgent, and
Yeah.
like the Stephen Covey Franklin the Franklin Covey method is of like getting your shit together basically talks about those things being the most important things, the things that are really
Mm.
important but are not urgent.
Hmm.
Those are the things that are the most important things that we never get done. They have like the biggest happiness
Yeah.
factors. So make sure you ask people when they're doing the thing that they have, the only thing they have to do is when they're done they have to come back and tell you about it, because the joy is the present, and it is
Yeah.
such a present to see the joy. Sorry, I went off, but yeah, so that
No,
was my birthday.
I love that. That's awesome. Like I said, I could do
Wonderful.
that, but I'm not going to say that. I mean, you can do that. Absolutely, please. Do things that are important and tell me about it. I love it. But what I really love is if you are listening or watching this, if you become a Patreon supporter of the podcast, it's only $5 a month. So that's a very cheap birthday present, much cheaper than pretty much any other birthday present you can find for anybody.
Definitely
So,
cheaper than the Nightmare on Elm Street fancy schmancies.
yeah. So, consider being a patron supporter for birthday.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, and we're gonna have that ask again in like a month and a half for my birthday.
Yeah, we all got our fall birthdays, yo. It's
True.
almost like destiny aligned to make us a horror podcast with our autumnal spooky season birthdays. Um,
Totally.
It is
Totally.
Libra season, so we're ready for you.
I am such a Libra. I am the
Yes, you are.
Libraist of Libras. My adds to the wildness of Libra season for me.
Mm.
But anyway, how is everyone doing today? Have you been reading or watching anything fun?
Okay.
You already told us about Witch's Brew or Munchkin Brew.
Munchkin's Magic.
Munchkin's Magic. There we go.
I, as many people know, am writing a book and illustrating it. And that is part of what I did for Susanna's birthday. But I went to the library and I got a couple picture books and some other books that actually take place during the pandemic because my book takes place during
Mm.
the pandemic. And I wanted to see what other people were doing and publishing for pandemic-y stuff. Mine is more connected to church, but I'm excited to read those. I've also been catching up
Hmm.
on reading. I don't know that I'm a little bit behind on Stephanie, friend of the podcast, Stephanie Kaler's zines. So I'm working on catching up. And the one that I'm on includes a tear out coloring book of the book that
Ooh.
Stephanie wrote and I sketched out so that it's coloring page style. And it's called Finch Goes to Pride, and it is perfect for any child who's trying to figure out what the fuck gender is. And any adult. So
Yay.
we'll link to that zine volume in our show notes so that you can check it out if you are interested. It is the latest one that is up on sometimeszine.com right now. So I'm doing that. And also, I decided sometime in the last month that I'm going to do origami for our season. So I started because last year, last season, whatever that thing was that happened before this one, I read Origami Yoda and I made a bunch of Yodas and then I put them up on the wall like a week or two ago. Brooke just noticed today. She was like, "Who made Origami Yoda?" R2D2 is her favorite. Anyway, so I started while we were watching Wizard of Oz, and I have a lion, and I have a shoe, a ruby
Very
slipper,
nice.
but I'm still working on the second. So I'm just gonna make a bunch of origami throughout the season because
I
it
love
is
it.
fun. That's what's up.
Please send please send pictures to me and I will post them on our Insta as we go.
Sounds good. I will when I finish ruby slipper number 2. So there's a pair.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's me.
I I have been reading a lot. So I just finished according to my spreadsheet where I'm tracking the books I'm reading because I'm not using Goodreads anymore because of Amazon and grossness. Um, I have just read my 118th book today for the year, which was Animorphs the Absolute, which I'm nearing the end of the Animorphs series. I'm so excited to finally have completed the read through of that. But I also, since last episode, I was talking about how I was reading Claudia Gray's Firebird trilogy, and I was on the second one of those. I just finished the third one, which is A Million Worlds with You. Such a great trilogy. Claudia Gray's past podcast guest on this podcast, and we mostly talked about Star Wars. We brought up a little bit of her other books, including the Firebird trilogy. And so I'm so glad I read it. It's about multi-parallel universes and dimensions and all that stuff, and it's just a really cool book. And I just started today another book of hers, which is the Haunted Mansion book that she wrote to tie in with the Disney attraction and movie that came out last year. And
Ooh.
so just started it. It's already really good. Any book of Claudia Gray, like I'm just basically reading every that Claudia Gray has ever written because I love her that much and her writing that much, and she is such a great guest. So that's mostly what I've been reading. Also reading through Little House on the Prairie series. I just finished Little Town on the Prairie earlier. But as for movies, it is spooky season, so I'm watching my spooky movies. I'm also watching Doctor Who, still working on that. Almost finished with the 13th Doctor. I'm sad to see her go. But
Oh my gosh, I'm on Sarah Jane in the classic Who. I'm so excited. I love
yeah,
Sarah Jane Smith. She might be my favorite companion
she's really awesome. And you're on
so
the
far.
fourth Doctor, which is the
Yes.
longest tenured Doctor. 7
Ooh.
seasons.
Also, I
Seven
didn't know
seasons
that
so far.
his scarf actually, like, he utilizes his scarf to
Yeah.
great effect so far. I'm very impressed.
hmm
Also, it would be
hmm
filthy, but okay.
Yes, it really is. Um, and I love how the scarf changes length in between seasons. At one point, it's like 27 or 30 feet long or something. They just kept adding to it. Um, but anyway, but horror movies, I'm still doing my Fangoria 100 top 100 movies as voted by fans of Fangoria, including me. As a fan, I voted for it. So I watched Hellraiser yesterday, the original, and I plan to watch the remake uh probably today before bed, or tomorrow if I fall asleep. I've watched Event Horizon, which we've covered on season 1 of this podcast. But I also watched Hostel, which is a favorite of mine, the Hostel series, and neither the made for TV 90s movie with Tim Curry. So I love both of
Ooh.
those, even though they're both not on the list. They just are like they're classics I have to watch every spooky season. So I watch those too. What about you, Susanna?
It
Have you
is not.
watched
It is not on the list. Dang.
not the made for TV movie, but the actual film that was in theaters is on the list. But
Okay.
made for TV movies don't I don't think count. Well, it's a miniseries, not necessarily movies, so I think that's why it doesn't
Okay.
count.
Okay.
What have I been watching?
Um, yeah, what have you been watching or reading or anything?
Well, Emily and I finished the Discovery of Witches again. Like we just like it
Yay.
was again for me. It was the first time for them, and I freaking love it. And
So good. I can't wait to cover it.
it was, I mean, like it
hmm
starts off feeling very like, oh, this feels like it's got some like Twilight vibes, like.
Major Twilight vibes.
But then as it like
hmm
goes on, it ends up exploring this idea of vampires and having families that are by sire, and that and that blood becomes like a completely different version of blood. Right? So like the blood
Yeah.
family, like a blood sworn daughter is literally, blood on her head. Like it, which feels like the ashes on Ash Wednesday, by the way. And like there was
It's
Mm,
true.
like
hmm
it was but like a blood family not being like something biologically related, right? So like, and they take it extremely seriously, and so there's this whole thing about family being chosen. It ends up being a whole show about chosen family and the forces that want to keep that family from being a family, regardless of what kind of being they are, or if they're multiple different kinds of being, like witches and vampires can be family and da da. Because like one of the premises of the show is that never the two shall mix, right? So like the fact that there is a love story in there about there being a mix, or that
Or
two
demons
demons
and
have a witch baby, or like those kinds of like that's like this huge deal that causes all this strife. And so the whole thing is just about chosen
Nice.
family, and I was like, this is gay as fuck. So I like went on and
Yeah.
like read about the author, and I was like, oh yeah, she got married to her partner like recently. Like, okay, now I get it. Because
hmm
it's mostly cisets. There are some queers, but like
wasn't it
even
that she like came out in the process of
I think so. Yeah,
writing
yeah,
it? Like she thought she was straight. That's why it's a straight couple, I think. And then it's surprisingly queer for a straight couple, but she didn't know she was queer.
yeah. You can feel it
Aw.
too as the whole thing goes on. So it's really cool to
Mhm.
see, for me to see like these like what it looks like a straight cishet couple like actually be like take on these like queer traits, and then it just gets queerer and queerer.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it. It's just a feel good show that actually has an ending that wasn't like cut off at a cliffhanger, so
Mhm.
that's
True.
good.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to make Emily watch The Jinx on HBO Max because I think it's fascinating. The real estate mogul who killed
Oh
all those
yeah.
people and like accidentally admitted it on the documentary, and that's how
Right.
they got him. Like
Whoops.
it's
Yeah.
so good. It's
We're
so
slowly
good.
working our way through that. Also, we started watching The Great British Baking Show, which came out the first episode of the season last
Yeah.
Friday. So
Brian
that's
and I
exciting.
started it yesterday.
We did
So
too last night. That's
me
so fun.
too. Aw, look at us.
Yeah.
Um,
I was like, they're not gonna cut anybody. I was right. Spoilers, they don't cut
hmm,
anybody because somebody's sick for part of it. They never cut anybody when somebody's sick because it's not fair.
yeah, yeah.
And I love it.
So,
Also, we're going to watch Uglies soon. It looks really cute.
oh, yeah. Uh, Friend of the podcast, River, and I have watched Chimp Crazy last week or the week before, like, and River's watching again because is that much of a fun show. So, but also terrifying, because of especially the ways the animals are treated and stuff like that. But um, yeah, we are totally in on the buzz of that too. Emily has not watched it because of the treatment of animals, probably won't watch it, which is fair.
No, I haven't watched it for the same reason I haven't watched Tiger King.
Yeah.
I I'm not actually into trash shows until slash unless Susanna is watching them in my presence for long enough that then I'm like, wait, what happened to that one? Which is how I ended up watching
Mm,
Love is Blind and Queer Ultimatums. So
fun, fun.
it was bad. It was bad.
Well, I guess, yeah, I guess we should though get into this movie. I have a migraine, y'all, so if I
Oh yeah.
start slurring my speech, that's what's going on. Also, I probably don't want this episode to go longer than typical because of migraine. So
Yeah. That makes
we'll
sense. I
we'll
forgot about that.
gaily go forward down the yellow brick road as we cover The Wizard of Oz, directed by several people, including Victor Fleming. Came out in 1939. Which was 2 years after Disney's Snow White and a year before their second film, Pinocchio. Same year as
Mhm.
Gone with the Wind. Same year as the Son of Frankenstein, which we'll cover when we do our Frankenstein season down the road. Same year as the Return of Dr. X, and then also the same year as the Gorilla, which is kind of a King Kong parody slash trying to ride the coattails of King Kong. And also the same year as the Shirley Temple version of The Little Princess. So
Yeah,
a lot
I've
of
only
kind of,
seen two of those.
yeah, a lot of classic film. But this was still like golden age Hollywood when like there are maybe two movies that would come out a month as opposed to now where there's like 20 movies that come out a month. So that's
For
why
sure.
there's so few listed there. Um, but what's the first time you have seen The Wizard of Oz, Emily?
Okay, I don't actually know when the first time I saw The Wizard of Oz was. However, I, as a kid, did a bunch of plays and musicals with our there was somebody that would come every year and do musicals and plays and stuff with us. Um, and so I remember being in The Wizard of Oz, and I
Mm,
was a munchkin and a poppy, a dancing poppy. And I think my mom was one of the people of Oz. They always got like the adults to do some stuff, but it's mostly a
yeah.
kids performance. So
Munchkin tracks for you, I'll say.
yeah, I always ended
Are
up
you
with
a
like the
Lollipop
dancing
Guild? I feel
parts
like that would
without
be.
having ever done dance.
Oh,
Sorry.
wow. Yeah.
So I know most of the, yeah, I was telling Pace we recorded our movie commentary on The Wiz, which I had never
Hmm,
seen, so I
hmm.
couldn't sing along to. And then we realized we were like, we picked the worst movies to do movie commentaries because we get so enthralled with them. And then as we were watching The
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz, I was like, We should have done a movie commentary on The Wizard of Oz
Still
because
can.
I definitely sang along to all of them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
In a future well, I'll talk about that in the behind the scenes, but in a future season we'll have to cover Return to Oz, and maybe we can do a movie commentary of Wizard of Oz when that happens.
Yeah,
But
sounds great. What
my
about you?
I honestly don't know the first time I've seen this movie, but one of my memories of seeing the movie, like the earliest time I actually remember seeing the movie was I must have been 6 or 7. I was at my grandfather's house and we were watching it on his TV. And I remember the reason I know this wasn't my first time is because I remember like part of the memory is like deciding what to watch, and I remember seeing The Wizard of Oz and being like, "Oh, I love that movie." So I must have seen it before then, but like
Mhm.
so I remember. But anyway, but the the most recent time I seen the movie was probably in college or grad school. So it's been a good like 10, 15 years. Um, or maybe even longer since I've seen it. But I'm pretty sure the last time I seen it was actually watching Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon version, which, if you don't know about that, you basically line up Pink Floyd's album Dark Side of the Moon and press play as you're watching Wizard of Oz, and the song to make the Dark Side of the Moon the soundtrack basically for Wizard of Oz. And it really matches up really well. You can find pirated versions online that do the syncing for you, so you don't have to do the hard tech version of trying to do it. But
I am
yes.
fascinated, and I want us for the movie commentary to watch that version.
But then you won't be able to sing along with the Wizard of Oz songs. You'd have
Oh,
to be singing along with the Pink Floyd songs.
that's fair. Maybe not.
But yeah, it is wild. So anyway, we have a little bit of behind the scenes. I'll let Emily start because they have a behind the scenes. I'm so excited.
Interesting. So in the movie Wizard of Oz, the slippers that Glinda puts on Dorothy's feet are ruby slippers.
Mhm.
However, in the book by L. Frank Baum, the slippers are silver, and the silver was supposed to be because of silver. This whole book was like an allegory on the economy or whatever. So the silver was supposed to represent silver as a basis for money and you get
Mhm.
gold. Follow the yellow brick road, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But the so I don't know why. I read the books. They were really good at putting me to
Mhm.
sleep when I was like filled with anxiety, and they're just like such chill
Aw.
books that like it was easy to fall asleep and not like be caught up in dreams of the books. Um, but I don't know why they switched it. My guess would be the red was just more colorful and so stood out more, but I don't know the full truth. So that
That
is my
is
behind the scenes.
That is, in fact, the reason why they switched it,
Mm,
because they thought that to utilize the new Technicolor process that for the film, silver would not have stood out the way that the deep red of the ruby slippers could. So that's why they changed it, but simply just to make it
mm.
look better in color.
The very
Yeah,
deep red.
yeah. Uh-huh.
I got a pair now. I'm finished.
Yay. So, also, if you're ever in the Washington, D.C. area, you can see the ruby slippers on display at the Smithsonian of American History, and they are really that vibrant in real life as they appear in
Mhm.
the movie.
Yeah.
They are really
But are they really
sequinty and well done.
rubies?
No, they are, what is that called? The little sequins. They're red sequins that are like
That's what
stitched
I
onto
thought.
the slippers.
That's fair.
But so, as Emily said, this film is based on the book by L. Frank Baum, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which was published in 1900, so 39 years before the film. And if you remember the title card of The Wizard of Oz, when it says, for something like, this story has been warming hearts for nearly 40 years, and that's what that's about. Um, but the book was so popular that expanded to a series that is 14 books long by L. Frank Baum. And then there are, of course, many spin-offs and stuff not by him, but his original series was 14 long. It was adapted a few times, including in Broadway musical and silent films, but no adaptation was particularly popular. The Broadway musical, sadly, most of the music is lost, so we don't even know what the music was. It was all new music for this film. It wasn't based off of the Broadway's musical. But the success of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs by Disney allowed the studios to consider adapting fairy tales and children's stories for the bigger screen. And they thought that they could be successful because at the time it was thought that modern audiences would not be wanted serious drama for film. And like if you think about some of the other movies that came out this year, like Gone with the Wind, very serious drama. But Snow White just kind of was a runaway success that they're like, oh, maybe there is money to be had by adapting children's stories. So that kind of was an instigator for this movie being made, and it went through many rewrites, was in development hell for years. There are over 16 people who worked on the script. Some are credited, most were not. Um, but the dream element was devised as a way to make it appeal to modern audiences. In the book, it's not there's nothing in there about it potentially being a dream. Like Dorothy Gale literally gets sucked up by a tornado and goes to Oz and then comes home through the magic. But in the movie, they're like, oh, we'll make it seem like it was all a dream, so that way it won't be straight out fantasy, and then maybe modern audiences will get into it more that way. I feel like that was a cop out. I'll talk about that later.
Oh, for
I
sure.
I don't like the dream thing here, but anyway,
Well, and it's
we'll talk
weird
about it
to
later.
like have not have experienced it first as a movie and then read the books because they are totally different because the movie very clearly it's a dream. It's
Mhm.
literally like you get the hints at the beginning where they're dropping hints of my brain is full of straw or whatever. And then
Yeah.
it's the same it's the same actors playing both characters. But it's also, there's no way in hell that Dorothy is 12 years old.
Yes.
So, like, the books are so very different. Like, the books, I could
Hmm.
believe that Dorothy's 12 years old, but I never really thought of her as 12 years old because I had seen the movies first. So, I
Yeah.
don't know. My kids, we're going to read the books first.
There you go. There you go. Well,
And also
the
probably watch The Wiz before we watch The Wizard of Oz because that is who our family is.
yeah. Um, so not only though did this movie go through 16 writers at least, it also went through three directors, though Victor Fleming was the one who did most of the work on the film. He was also known for the other revolutionary Technicolor film that came out this year, Gone with the Wind. He directed that. Um,
Mm.
but there's so much stuff we could get into behind the scenes here, but I'm not going to get into too much of it because we don't want this episode to be 10 hours long. And a lot of it is readily available and is like ingrained into pop culture memory. But there are a few things I just want to cover. First is the mistreatment of Judy Garland, who was 17 at the time of this being filmed. To make her look younger, they made her wear a chest binder. They made her take benzodine tablets to not gain weight. They gave her uppers and downers to help with her performance and deal with the long periods of filming. So just totally drugging this poor 17-year-old, making her keep a very slim weight, making her wear chest binders to make her look younger, just all this awful stuff. And for you audio listeners on podcast feeds, I'll share a link in the article. I'll share an article link in the show notes that goes into some of that. Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch, also had it pretty bad. The paint gave her rashes. She was badly
Mhm.
burned on set during the Munchkin scene where she disappears into the trap door and stuff, to the point that she refused to do any more special effects scenes through involving fire throughout the rest of it. And so they had to use stunt doubles, which would make sense that they should use stunt doubles. It's kind of upsetting that they didn't, but anyway,
Yeah.
and more. And then there's like this, I don't know where this comes from, but when I was growing up, and it's still like widely thought of, that this was the first movie to be released in color, which is just not true, not historically accurate at all. So the
I
tech,
think I thought that too, that this was like a whole huge thing that like it went from sepia to all of a sudden color.
yeah. And so this movie there were a lot of movies that had some scenes that were in color, or maybe, or some of the scenes were tinted and stuff. But the Technicolor process that they used for this film was fairly new. Um, so this Technicolor process went from using two different film reels to three different, using cyan, magenta, and yellow. So one camera would have basically three pieces of film running through it at the same time, which each would refract a certain color of the light. And then when you combine those together, it would create the picture, the very vibrant pictures that we saw. So Walt Disney Picture Animation Studios use this process for Snow White, which is why Snow White is also very vibrant. But and that came out 2 years before this. So already, just by that, we know that this isn't the first color film, or even the first to use this three color process, but it is one of the
Mhm.
films that's most known for it because of the going from sepia to this very vibrant, lush world of Oz. But because of this Technicolor process, the lighting on studio sets to allow for the new film to work was so bright and hot that actors were miserable in their heavy costuming. It would sometimes be like 110 degrees under the studio lights. And some of them even complained of temporary blindness or spots from the lights
Oh,
as they
wow.
were shooting, because the lights had to be that bright. Thankfully, in the 90 years or whatever it's been since this movie came out, they've come up with much better lighting systems that don't need to be quite so bright for shooting in Technicolor.
Jeez.
But also now they digital film and stuff too, so they don't need the Technicolor process. Um, The tornado effect was so well done that it's reused in films up to the 1950s.
I saw that
Uh,
the version that we watched for it had like a little thing about that, which was really
yeah,
cool. I didn't realize that it was like that big of a
yeah.
deal, that big of a thing.
Um, and like I said, there's much more background we could get into, but I won't. But are a lot of popular adaptations and spin-offs of this movie, including the legitimately horrifying Return to Oz, which we'll cover on this podcast, I promise, at some point. And then the musical The Wiz, which you can listen to our movie commentary on Patreon right now. It's already up there. So,
Hmm. And also, Wicked, because
yeah,
everyone deserves the chance to fly.
yep. That movie, the first part is coming out in November, I want to say,
Wait, they split
of
it up
the,
into multiple parts?
yeah, because then they don't have to cut any of it. Because the problem with Broadway productions is that Broadway productions tend to be about 3 hours long. Most people do not want to sit through a 3 hour long movie musical. And I know Emily and I are not most people. We would. So studios usually will like severely edit down musicals, cut out songs and stuff like that to make it more a compact 2 hour film. Wicked, they chose to not cut it down, but to in fact release it as two parts. So
Mm.
Act 1 and Act 2, I presume, are going to be the two parts. Uh, and also the name Elphaba from the book Wicked by Gregory Maguire, which the Broadway musical is based off of and the film is based off of.
Mhm. That was
Elphaba
his
comes
best
from,
of the like retelling books.
yeah.
Well,
But the name comes from L. Frank Baum, each initial Alpha Ba, L. Frank Baum. that's how
that's
she
so
got her name there.
cute. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you have a one sentence summary for this film?
I do, in fact. Charlatans take on the dream with reverse property destruction.
I love it.
What's
Mine
yours?
is Dorothy gets caught between the rivalry of two witches,
The Rivalry of the Witches. That could be its
right?
own movie. It would be the sequel to the series Discovery of Witches. The Rivalry of
Yeah.
Witches. I'm just saying. Okay. Rolling through. I'm in a rolling chair. Rolling
Wait,
through this
I have a
film.
question, real quick.
Walking on the yellow
How
brick road through the
Oh,
snow.
wait.
Question,
Oh,
real
yes.
quick. You neither one of you has a super super queer one one sentence recap of this. I mean, we've got like
Dorothy goes over the
three
rainbow.
queers pick up a fag hag and unveil the patriarchy. That would be mine. You know what I mean? Like
I love it.
you know what I mean? Like it's so like this there's a reason the show like I mean this movie like is so iconic for the queer community, and it's not just because the
Yeah.
queer community loves Judy Garland. Like the storyline is so queer, so like I feel like it needs
It's
like
true.
Yeah.
a
It's
queer
true. I thought
recap about like fruit flies gather themselves ripe little strawberry, and then she like unveils the patriarchy or something. I don't know, but it's
Yep.
so queer.
I love it. We were waiting for you to do that summary. That's why.
Oh,
But it's
okay,
also
okay,
going to be a
well,
topic of our deep dive. We're going to talk about the queerness of the movie there
okay.
too. But yeah, it
Yeah,
is
I was
very
like,
queer.
part of me was like expecting Pace to do that in the background, and then I was like, no, we're gonna talk about it later of like Friends of Dorothy and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, my bad, my bad.
No, no
no,
bad.
no bad. That's perfect because it also gives Pace more options for the one sentence summary game at the end of in our
Yeah, no, retro.
retrospective. I'm not sure I wrote them all down right, but it's okay. Anyway, so Dorothy goes over the rainbow, which
Mm-hmm.
is actually what I thought Suzannah was going to say she was in the beginning introductions. I thought it was going to be, I'm Suzannah and I am over the rainbow. But she did not, so whatevs. Anyway,
Hmm.
okay. No, this is before I realized she was supposed to be 12 years old. But no one who has been living on a farm would walk the fence between the hogs and fall in. Like, you know better.
Yeah.
You know better, even as a kid.
Girl.
Even if I had known she was only 12, I think I think that would still hold true.
Mm-hmm.
Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
Also I love the iconic song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Oh,
Yeah.
Be Still My
Judy
Beating
Garland's
Heart.
voice. It's just so
She has
beautiful.
a phenomenal voice.
Yeah.
She really does. Yeah.
And Liza really got
Um,
that voice.
Also, this is truly a horror movie.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I know we are looking at it through the lens of horror, and our definition of horror is expansive, but the witch steals the frickin' puppy.
Mm-hmm.
There is no
And
movie in which stealing a dog is not horror.
yeah, and if you remember when we covered Gremlins on the main feed back in, I want to say it was season two, it was early on for one of our Christmas episodes.
I
One of
think
the
it was
behind the
season two.
scenes, one of the behind the scenes for that is that the movie Gremlins, in fact, is a legit horror movie. Uh, and it is based on like broad stroke similarities to Wizard of Oz. It starts with the mean lady stealing the dog, all sorts of from him, all sorts of stuff like that. So,
It just hit me. It just hit me. Emily,
Yes.
the Wrath of Becky is a play on the Wizard of Oz.
It is.
Oh my
Because
god.
they kidnapped the
They
dog.
kidnap the dog, and the girl goes like over her wrath, and then what she does, she's not friends with the three guys, she kills the three guys, but still, like, I found out that I do like body horror if there's some sort of feminism
Hmm.
involved, and like, so like you could like smash up a guy's face, and if it's a little blonde girl doing it to get her dog back, it's fine by me. But like,
Yeah.
I I I
Yeah,
just realized
woe
that the
be
most
to anyone who steals our puppers.
I just
Hmm.
realized I wonder what other films out there are just a ploy and an even more exacerbated horror take
Yeah.
on the Wizard of
One of
Oz.
one of the movies that one of the franchises that I hope to cover very soon, either next season or within the next 2 or 3 seasons, is doing a zombie one, and Resident Evil, of course, is high up there as the franchise to do. But
Also,
Resident
we have to
Evil,
do World War Z if we do that, and there are a couple like romantic comedies that we may have seen that deserve to be in
yes, there are so many zombie movies. But Resident Evil itself is not a play on Wizard of Oz, but a play on Alice in Wonderland, and the main character's name is Alice. And
there.
so
Ooh.
I love it when horror movies take like these children's stories and do this very,
Wait, so are we gonna watch like Winnie the Pooh sometime?
oh, the
Didn't they
horror
come
version
out
of
with
Winnie the
like
Pooh.
the horror version
Yeah,
of Winnie the
we
Pooh?
could, we could
Just
probably.
saying.
If it's a horror movie, we'll cover it eventually. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Indeed, indeed. Also, the creepy old man does mostly the right thing. He sends Dorothy back home, and that is good. Well done, creepy guy.
Who
Mhm.
suspiciously looks like the wizard that we see later on. Hmm.
Weird.
Weird.
Huh. Also, this cannot have been the first tornado that Dorothy ever experienced. She lives in fucking Kansas. How does it take her so long to figure out where to go? This is about when I realized slash was informed that she's 12 years old. And maybe, just maybe, she might not know, but also like, I don't know. I feel like we were doing fire drills in elementary school.
Yeah.
They should have been
This
doing
was
tornado drills.
this was the 1930s. There is no way that they cared about safety at that time. I mean, they're literally giving Judy Garland drugs to keep her awake to film long hours. They're not going to be
Oh, I
teaching
mean,
children how to run away from tornadoes and doing
I
drills
mean,
in school.
totally not caring about safety, but also like they have a tornado den basementy thing. I can't imagine Auntie Em and Uncle Henry not having gone
Well,
over that with their.
maybe, but we don't know much about Dorothy. Like her parents are presumably dead. Maybe she lived in the city and her parents died this summer and she's just got shipped out to the farm like maybe a month or two ago. And that's why she's so new to everything and making all these mistakes. We don't know. And
Maybe.
also Auntie M could be very irresponsible caregiver.
That does not seem like Auntie Em,
She's a
but
Christian. She can't say mean things. Maybe she can't,
oh my
maybe
God, that
it's
was so
against her
perfect.
religion
I
to
was like,
also teach her
oh,
children right from wrong. I don't know. Her adopted
no share.
children.
Oh, great. Sorry, there's a fire truck. Um,
Ruru.
yes. Also, the Twister really was fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't think I appreciated
really
how
well
good
done.
it was
Yeah.
until it happened.
I have a 4K TV and the version on HBO that I watched was 4K and this
Mm,
film is stunning in 4K.
yeah.
I so just gorgeous. My big thing after the Twister. Well, first of all, the Twister gets speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street in part six, Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. There's a tornado with a house, and Freddy's the one riding the broom, if you remember that scene, Emily.
Oh yeah,
So clearly a
yeah.
parody of that. But anyway, Once Dorothy lands in Oz, I fucking can't with Glinda. I cannot stand her. She is like the
Should
most,
her name be Karen?
yeah, like she has the most Karen energy. She floats around this damn bubble. And then like Dorothy is clearly in distress, and Glinda's like, I'm just gonna put you in this middle of my conflict I have with my sister, who's the Wicked Witch of the West, and you have to deal with it. And I'm gonna steal my other sister's shoes and give them to you and trust you to carry them to the wizard. And sure, you can use the shoes to get home this whole time, and you're clearly in distress and missing your family, but I'm going to keep that information from you because of no reason other than I want you to kill my sister for me. Like, what?
Right? Like, who wants somebody to?
And this is a flaw in the movie. Like in the book, the witch that Dorothy meets in Munchkinland is a witch of the South. The witch she gets the who helps her get home is the Witch of the North, who's the most powerful. In this one, they combined the two into just the Witch of the North, Glinda. And so Glinda had the power all along and doesn't send Dorothy home, which is a very, I want to say a word, but I'm not going to say it, mean thing for the witch to do.
It's true.
Cruel.
It's true. Yeah. So bad. Also, they do a good job. I was impressed with like how well they made the kids look like older munchkins. Like I
Yeah,
know some of them are small people, um
yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah,
I was impressed.
in my mind, since like I said, it's been probably 15 or more years since I've seen it. They were all little people playing the Munchkins, but then when I watched it this time, I was like, oh, there are a lot of kids in there in makeup to make them look older and stuff, and it's done well. I agree.
Yeah.
So, um, I love
Also, but
the
you can
okay,
tell. You can
yeah,
tell, right? You can tell the special effects, you can tell the makeup, you can see where like the the prosthetics stop at the hairline or whatever, or the like
yeah,
trap door that the Wicked Witch of the West goes under to escape Munchkin Land.
yeah.
You can see some of that stuff, but like for that time period, spectacular.
Agreed, agreed. Um, then we get to Dorothy meeting the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, and then eventually the Lion. But the Tin Man's version of the song is my favorite. I know everybody always quotes the "If I only had a brain," like the Scarecrow's version, but I like the Tin Man's version
Yeah.
better, personally. Um, and lions and tigers and bears. Oh
Oh
my, that
my.
famous line.
Yep. I have quoted that line a lot of times, not gonna lie. Not lying.
Ah, ha, ha.
I lied. I should put eyes on the lion. There you go. You
Beauteous.
can't even see the eyes. Well, that's
I
rude.
cannot.
Let me fix it.
Chocolate syrup also was what was used for the oil for his joints, the Tin
I
Man's
think it
joints.
was like soy sauce. Chocolate syrup is better. See? The
Yeah.
lion. Okay. Sorry. Our listeners will just miss out on me showing off my origami. Okay. I wasn't sure. It was so watered down. I thought it might be soy sauce, but maybe they just mixed water and chocolate
Yeah.
syrup.
It was
This
definitely
probably tastes better
according
at least.
yeah. According to IMDb, which is not always the most reliable, it is chocolate sauce. But it's usually pretty reliable in some of the stuff.
Yeah, I believe it. That's what they used to use
Um,
for blood in black and white movies.
yeah. Yeah. Uh, speaking
Mhm.
of other weird things though, asbestos was used as the snow.
Oh my gosh. That's
I mean,
terrible.
they didn't know back then, but still. That's why asbestos is so dangerous because it's still in a lot of buildings and stuff that were built before the 1970s.
Yeah.
because up until then it was used commonly for stuff like that.
Yeah. Also, I love the lions. I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks.
Oh.
Um,
Also, the term spook being a racialized term, not sure if that's intentional here or not, but just naming it.
that tracks. I did not make that connection. Yeah.
Uh,
Also, you can always follow a puppy to their human. Like,
mhm,
when in
mhm.
doubt, follow the puppy. Athena, whenever we come back from a walk, she heads directly to Suzannah, unless you keep her on her leash.
Oh,
Immediately to Suzannah. Sometimes when we're in my room and they come back from a walk and the door is closed and latched, you can hear them like
yeah.
hit against the door and think that they can go in and then they can't.
Yeah, I was working from home today, and so Brian went into work, but Brian typically will go into work if he's not taking me like early. So when I got up and went downstairs with Gandalf went through the whole house looking for Brian. I'm like, he's already at work, buddy. Gandalf was disappointed by that.
I don't blame Gandalf. Probably
So,
got some amount of separation anxiety because of other humans who abandon people and animals.
yeah.
But
Um, Speaking of the queerness of this film, Surrender Dorothy is a very popular phrase that appeared in graffiti and stuff, especially in like queer communities. Surrender Dorothy, and it's what the witch draws out in the sky with her broom, Surrender
yeah.
Dorothy. But having lived in DC, Surrender Dorothy is very famous for being over the bridge over 495 as you're heading towards the LDS temple. It says Surrender Dorothy, and then during COVID, it was changed to Surrender Donald because Donald Trump was president at the time. So, but now I'm pretty sure it's back to Surrender Dorothy. Anyway,
Probably. I don't think I ever noticed it, but I didn't, really look. So,
yeah.
yes. Um, Also, how rude to call Toto mangy. Toto is not a mangy
Yeah.
mutt. Rude.
He's
Like, totally
adorable.
not a farm dog. So it tracks with your theory that Dorothy lived in the city, but not a mangy mutt.
Yeah, I think we talked about this too, and there is some the costuming of the Wiz by and large I love so much more than this movie, even though the costuming in this movie is great too. Like, don't get me wrong, it's amazing. But
Mhm.
the dog Toto in this movie, so much cuter than the dog in The Wiz. No offense, but that Toto wasn't nearly as cute as this one.
How do you
Neither
really?
are mangy though.
Yeah. Also, so we sometimes watch a YouTuber called who's like the YouTube channel is Legal Eagle. Um, and it's a lawyer who like talks about the legal cases and a bunch of things like the many, many Trump indictments and lawsuits and
Hmm.
P. Diddy, all of the things, right? But every once in a while we'll do like an extra bonus fun thing and look at a TV show or movies or whatever. And I would love for him to do The Wizard of Oz because if nothing else, we've got at least 2 counts of manslaughter for Dorothy, witch slaughter, whatever. Um, and I'm sure there's more, like moving a house without permission, all of those things. You
But
need permits and stuff,
I
but
mean,
it
the
would be
tornado moved the
hilarious.
house, so that would be an act of God, I would hope.
I mean,
Like that
yes,
she
but
didn't kill.
also like she just abandons the
Steal
house.
Stealing a dead person's shoes though is still a crime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then of course it ends with, was it all a dream? The movie seems to strongly hint that. I like to interpret it as it's not a dream. She really did go somewhere, but that's
Yeah.
my own fan headcanon because like I think it's such a cop
It's
out
not your
otherwise. I don't like it.
headcanon, it's the book.
Well,
Right? Like it was
it's
always a
it
like, was
doesn't
it a
quite
dream?
match the text of the film, is what I'll say.
Okay. Because the film, when I was really little, I think it was a question of like I don't the film as an adult clearly shows this was a dream. As a kid, it was a question. Was this a dream or was it
Yeah.
not? In the books, it's not. And so,
Hmm.
especially in the later books, like eventually Auntie M and Uncle Henry moved to Oz and live there permanently, right? Like, so I think, I don't know. I know it's complicated when there's a book and a movie and you're trying to decide which is which, blah, blah, blah. And also, I'm in favor of
Yeah.
it was not a dream
Agreed. Agreed.
because the book says it's not a dream. Yeah.
Um, Now I guess we can dive deeply, deeply diving.
Deeply diving, diving deeply, diving. We
See, I
still
don't
haven't
even need to
given
send the
Suzannah that audio, have we?
we haven't, but I don't need to because you just sang it live for us anyway, on air for everybody.
Alas,
I
that's
am
okay. I won't
accepting.
every time though, and if Susanna has it, then she can
I'll
play it in
send it.
the future.
I
I am
will
accepting. I'm accepting submissions of strange sounds. If you
yes.
have
I
clips
will
you would like me to press a button and play when I hear things, let me know.
I will for sure do our transition music to you and I'll put that in our folder before our next episode. So we can have our
And
transitions.
yeah, those are very important transitions. Does that include our Brenda Boss transitions? Because we should really bring those back.
We should. Those have never been they're supposed to be released on Patreon, and then they never happened because Pace's life happened and I was going through a divorce.
Yeah,
But eventually,
100%.
they would need to be resurfaced.
Yeah, I just think that they would be wonderful. Nerds at Church has Brenda Boss's kazoo music, or Nerds at Church should
Hmm.
have Brenda Boss's transitions because I'm too
Hmm.
NB to
Hmm.
transition, which is how we're
Yeah,
talking about transitions instead of talking about the deep theological discussion of the day.
as we do.
See what I just did?
Uh-huh. You
Speaking of,
transitioned.
I know.
Speaking of transitions, Emily transitions.
Anywho, I actually loved the quote, which we have already referenced, of Auntie M talking to Miss Gulch, who is the Wicked Witch of the West, and saying, "And now, well, being a Christian woman, I can't say it." She can't say what she really thinks of Miss Gulch. And that's actually inconsistent with the theology of the cross, which says you call a thing what it is. So
Which is a distinctly Lutheran theology, to be clear. So I my
it's
assumption then is
true.
that Anti-M is not a Lutheran.
Yeah, but like it seems more likely that it's, and now, well, being a white Midwesterner, I can't say it, than being a Christian.
Yes.
Like being a Christian
Yeah.
doesn't say, don't tell people the truth, don't tell people how you feel, don't confront people. There's a whole process for how to confront
Hmm.
people. I'm
Yes.
just saying.
Hmm. Hmm.
Also, I loved that the Munchkin mayor, when they were talking about the Munchkins, they also included and their descendants, if any. And I love that there is this like openness to family structures and expectations and whatever may come. It was really
Yeah. Yeah. And that
cool.
kind of works well with chosen family, which is a big theme of this. But the problem with the dream thing is that when Dorothy wakes up again, she is back with her bio family, and she is going on and on about how she never wants to ever leave them again, which kind of undermines the her time in Oz, which is she is making a family as she goes with the Scarecrow, with the Tin Man,
Mhm.
with the Lion and Toto, of course. And like that family is just as valid and true and important to her. And they support each other through this long, arduous journey for each of them to get their MacGuffin by the end of the movie. So
They're
like
MacGuffin.
yeah, so it's like it's clearly this like the ruby slippers are the main MacGuffin here, but like the brains and heart and courage are also
Hmm.
minor ones for each of the other characters. But they help each other, and I love that. And so like that's the central theme of this movie, and then it's kind of undermined at the end with the weird. It was
Yeah.
all a dream, and my real family is the one that matters. My real blood family. It's like no, that's just
And
not true.
I mean, this also happens in like The Wizard of Oz, where, or The Wiz, where Dorothy Dorothy's family is telling her to go do this thing in this other place, to go get the new job, to go whatever. It's not Dorothy who wants to do it. And so then she goes off to Oz and then comes back and it's like, oh, I do want to stay. And it's like, well, yeah, you were the one that wanted to stay, and everybody else in your family
Oh
was
yeah,
being an asshole.
right,
Everybody else needed to go to Oz to realize that you're amazing and wonderful.
right.
Gee.
I also love though the name of the farmhands that are there. Like we get that they're Scarecrow, Cowardly Lion, and Tin Man, but their names as the farmhands are Hunk, Zeke, and Hickory. I just love, oh,
Hickory
his name
Dock.
is Hunk because he's kind of cute. I guess he's a hunk. I don't know. It's weird.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Um,
But you know,
Also in the realm of chosen family, they are, we talk about this a lot in my house. But the interdependence, right?
yes.
Capitalism tells us this lie that we are all independent and can do everything, should be able to do everything on our own, and that has never been true, nor will it ever be true. The people that look
Hmm.
like they're doing everything on their own actually are exploiting people, usually.
Hmm.
But in this, Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion are helping each other, right?
Yeah.
When the Scarecrow catches fire, the Tin Man can put it out because he's not going to get burned. And when the Tin Man rusts because he's crying, because he actually has emotions and feelings and a heart, even though he doesn't think he does, then Dorothy and the Scarecrow can oil him. And when Dorothy and the
Yeah.
lion fall asleep in the poppies, the other two can help them escape. So
And when the lion's trying to run away, the scarecrow and the tin man just carry him, even as his feet are still going, which I love that scene. It's so cute.
it is one of my favorite parts. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the Wicked
Also,
Witch laments it
yeah,
very accurately. It's like, somebody always helps her. Yes, yes, in fact, somebody always helps her. That's how it works.
I I also love how the lion wears a cute little pink bow. So cute.
I know.
Um,
I love that part.
so yeah, but just to kind of wrap this part up about chosen family, like this whole no place like home is true. Like there is no place like home where you feel welcomed and are seen and loved and you
When that
are
is true,
surrounded by your
though,
loved ones. But exactly when that's true, what if your home where your bio family lives or family of origin lives isn't safe? So that's that
mhm,
kind of tension, and the film does not do a great job of dealing with that tension. Of course, it wouldn't because it has 1939 family. It's trying to like tell 1939 family dynamics and kind of project that on them. But like, um, but even so, home there really is no place like home, provided your home is a safe place. And if your home of origin is not a safe place, you can call your home with your friends and with the people who care about you your home. That is just as legitimate and
that's
counts.
literally what I do. Like, I love my biofam, and most of the time, we get along great. Also, I won't go home by myself anymore because they're not good. They have spent too much time not being good at pronouns and have
Hmm.
not done the work to get better at them.
Yeah,
And so I won't do that. And
yeah,
so the no place like home for me is here in Baltimore, is with
yeah.
The island of misfit toys, as we call ourselves.
Yeah. My home, I often say like Brian is and the dogs are home to me. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't matter where we are. Like home isn't a physical place so much as it is who I am with.
Yeah.
So um the next thing I have is the famous reveal. Do not look at the man behind the curtain. The hit which is uh both in the book and I've never read the book, but I was looking into the book beforehand just to see the points that differ. And I was wondering if this was something that was in the book or not. And it is in the book, just this
Mhm.
idea that Oz is really just this little dude, not little in stature, but like little in demeanor,
Mhm.
dude behind hiding behind this big scary like persona.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
there there's something in there about like masking and having changing your identity to fit in and all that stuff is part of it.
Mhm.
But also, I can go into a deep dive on Luther here about the hidden God. But before I do that, why don't you share your things about this and then I'll go into the hidden God quick.
I mean, I just love the pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Please don't look at how the sausage is made. Please don't look at the reality of exploitation and fear mongering
Right.
that exists. And then also like when they're leaving and the Wizard of Oz is like, here, I'm going to instill trifactor rulers from elsewhere to rule the city and maybe the whole land of Oz with no input from anyone because they
Because why
still
not?
see me as basically a deity and I can do
Yeah.
that.
And how he's the one who is an outsider because he's originally comes from Kansas or whatever himself.
Right?
And yet he's still the one in charge. And it's like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Um, So the hidden god, the reason this comes to mind is because for even though Wizard of Oz comes much after Luther uh, wrote, like 500 years after Luther wrote,
Hmm.
400 years after Luther wrote, um, it still is a very good metaphor for what Luther talks about when he talks about the hidden versus revealed God. So for Luther, the revealed God is Jesus on the cross. So that is the face we see that is supposedly Oz. So that is what we should look at because that is who God reveals to be us. The God who loves us so much that God is willing to die on our behalf, and who's full of grace, full of love, full of mercy, all of those things. The God behind the curtain, flip of what happens in Oz. The God behind the curtain is the
Mm.
one that Luther says you should not look at because that God will crush you with God's terribleness, God's scariness, God's otherness, being so other from what we can imagine as humans that if we try to dwell in that, it will basically destroy us. So
Is it the reverse or is that actually the thing? But like, is the big scary Oz the one that we shouldn't be paying attention to?
it could be. Yeah, that's a good
Right?
question.
Because the human Oz is the one who suffers on the cross. Right? Like the suffering on the cross is a very human thing. But
Yes.
the like big scary
But the big
is
scary one is the one that's on display for them when they first come in. It's the human one hiding
I
behind the
mean,
curtain. So that's
yes.
why I'm saying it's reverse.
Yeah, but it should be the other way, I think.
Okay. Sounds good.
The other way makes more sense, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I,
Also, oh yeah.
I was gonna say I love Luther's thought on the hiddenness of God. It's something that a lot of Christians today, especially more left-leaning Christians, leftist Christians tend to be uncomfortable with is a God that is terrifying. Because we all want to have much more of this pious relationship with God that is much more God is our friend, God is our lover, God is only good things. But if we think about like the Magnificat, which it like God is tearing people off of their thrones and upsetting oligarchies and rulers and robbing from the rich like Robin Hood and giving it to the poor, like that should be scary because there's this level of accountability and otherness and greatness to power that holds us accountable that we should be scared of, and not just be like, oh, I love Jesus, he's so pretty. He's my friend. He's my boyfriend. I
Yeah.
wear my promise
Well,
ring for him.
well, and the only time that it's ever okay to say that God is maybe scary is if you're quoting C.S. Lewis and you're talking about Aslan the lion, where they say, "Is he safe?" And the beaver says, "Oh no, no, he's not safe, but he is good." Right? Like
Hmm.
that is the only time where it's ever okay to admit that God might be scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I we will cover the Narnia at some point. We try to make it fit into which season, but it didn't fit. But I have so much I want to unpack about that movie and the books. C.S. Lewis was kind of a trash human, even
Oh
though
yeah.
we love his books in many ways. So we'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Also I love that the wizard is like the land of e pluribus unum because it's
Yep.
all about the economy. So like it actually
Uh-huh.
really tracks for him to be like making it the economy thing because this is
Hmm.
slippers are supposed to be silver, as they say. Yeah.
Love it. Um, Also, we've talked about this in our Häxan episode, but just to bring it up again here, this association of witches with ugliness, and then even beyond that, ugliness as a sign in and of itself of evil, which is a popular trope in horror from Friday the 13th to Nightmare on Elm Street, like I'm wearing, etc. It just goes on and on. That if you are ugly, if you have a facial disformity, something like that, you are inherently evil. And that's just very harmful and gross.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
don't support that. And like Glinda even says it, she's like, only bad evil witches are ugly.
She
Good witches
literally
are beautiful like me. It's like,
she
no.
literally says it. Yeah. I had that down for the witch lore part. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Ugh, I can't with Glinda. She's the real villain, I'm telling you. Uh, the queerness of this film. So that's kind of what I want to end our deep dive on. Is just this movie has become known in pop culture and queer communities as like a very queer film. Suzannah did a great introduction to that earlier uh, in the one sentence summary. But just
Mhm.
this idea of Oz being this kind of wonderland, this place of over the rainbow. The rainbow became a
Mhm.
queer symbol in the 1960s, 1970s, 1970,
Mhm.
early 1970s.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
still, like, just this idea that this cis het world, the world of your biofam, the world of your family of origin, is this dull sepia toned world. And it's only when you can embrace who you really are and cross over the rainbow that you are surrounded by color and around people who truly get you and who truly love you. And so this that journey of self-discovering, it's that finding your chosen family. It's that when you do return home or return to your place of origin, you come back changed. You're not the person who left. And so how all of
Mhm.
that really deeply resonates with the queer experience and the queer journey, which is why um, gay men, especially, but queer people of all types are sometimes known as the friends of Dorothy because of this
Yeah.
movie and stuff like that.
I
So,
love the Friends of Dorothy as a like moniker.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
Somewhere over the rainbow. I can't do a Kermit impression. I can't do impressions. Please don't ever quote me on that.
Well, his is why are there so many
Oh yeah.
songs about
About
rainbows and
rainbows
what's on the
on the
other side? And it's
other.
like, Kermit, there's really only one song about rainbows and what's on the other
Yeah,
side,
but
and it's
it's
from this movie.
so
It's not so many.
popular. But it's so popular
And you should be, why is it so popular? This song about
to
rainbows.
sing about rainbows. What's on
But
the
yes.
other? Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I love the queerness of it. I love Susanna's two one sentence summaries.
yeah,
Um, I think
me
they
too.
do such a good job. And it also like it's fascinating to me to see also just the depictions of masculinity in the movie because
Yeah.
you get someone who has a lot of wisdom that he has gleaned from others. This is even more poignant in um The Wiz. right? That the scarecrow has like all of these quotes he just pulls out of his
Yeah.
stomach. Um, but then you also get this man who is so kind and filled with love and emotion and cries. And you get
Yeah.
this lion who's scared. And this understanding of courage as not the thing, as not an absence of fear, but that fear is a
Yeah.
requirement in order to have courage. So I love that we
Yeah.
get all of this, and it's not portrayed as like, here are the many ways to be masculine. And it came out before we got into like the real deep depths of gender binaries and really diving so deeply
Hmm.
into them that makes masculinity so much more toxic. But I just love
Yeah.
like that part. And they're all there to support the protagonist, who is in fact a woman, or
Hmm.
technically a 12-year-old girl
Yeah.
slash young woman, depending on if you
Hmm.
base it on reality or weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just and also there's no romance in this story, which I like
Yeah.
too, because so many if you have a woman who is the protagonist, especially in this era film, but it's still happening today so much, which is why things like the Bechdel test exist. Like
Hmm.
there has to be a love arc for that character. And this is a journey of self-discovery. There's no love interest there. And originally, earlier drafts of the script had her falling in love with the scarecrow. I'm glad they cut that out because gross. But
Especially when they're doing it as like a 12-year-old girl and the like dreams where they're like,
yes.
yeah, you're the same people and she's gonna what, fall in love with the farmhands?
Well, that's exactly what happened because the in the original version of the film, they even I think filmed this end but cut it of Zeke or not Zeke, Hunk. The hunk is the love interest because he's Scarecrow and he's also the hunk. So she falls in love with him as the Scarecrow, but then when she wakes up, there's originally this version of the end where the hunk is going off to college or something, and he's like, "I'll write you. You'll have to come out and visit me." And they share like a hug that borders on like towards romance kind of thing, hinting towards a future romance. And I'm like, gross. So
No.
I'm glad they cut all that out. So as a
Yeah,
film, the text of the film stands as itself. There is no romance in it. And I like that.
I do
It's
too.
too
And
much.
that's how L. Frank Baum did it. Like it was for
Yeah.
kids. It was not for
Yeah.
weirdo romantic bullshit.
Hmm. Yeah. You can have very close bond. Like my primary relationship in my life is with someone who is my life partner, who is my best friend. We're not necessarily romantic or sexual with each other. And like that's such a relationship anarchy thing. And
Hmm.
not something that we see depicted in pop culture much. But the fact that here the four main characters are such close friends and support each other and don't have romance is important to
Hmm.
me. So
Yeah.
I guess we can get into witch lore though. Um,
So much witch lore.
yeah. So and when we were talking about Haxan, I said even though Haxan is much older than the movie we're covering this week, Wizard of Oz, Haxan does not have the lasting impact on witches the way that Wizard of Oz does. The Wicked Witch in Wizard of Oz has shaped how we see witches in pretty much
Right?
every media ever since. Either it's commenting on it to distance itself from it, or it's falling in with the tropes that were set out in this film.
Hmm.
Things like wearing all black with that hat, having
Hmm.
green skin and this very elongated chin and nose and stuff that were prosthetics, of course, but things like
Yeah.
that.
The ugliness equals evilness,
Mhm.
which again is related to the Haxan, but also
Yeah.
is specific to this. But yeah,
Hmm.
the being allergic to water, according to the Wiz, it was allergic to water, but then in the Wizard of
Yeah.
Oz, the witch melts
Yeah.
from water. Which, like, we don't know if it's all witches melt from water, if it's only evil witches melt from water, if it's only the Wicked Witch of the West who melts from water.
Yeah. And
Unclear.
Glinda's in a bubble, and bubbles are made from liquid, so you would think that she would hopefully not
You would think, but we
come
don't
through.
really know
Yeah, we
jack
really
shit
don't.
about Glinda because Karens have like extra superpowers,
Right?
you know?
Uh, um, as we've seen in Häxan and stuff, witches fly on brooms here,
Mhm.
but they can also make their brooms in this movie create what are those called? The things that airplanes have that come out that,
Jet
but
stream?
basically like stuff in the sky. Yeah. So the witch can make like smoke appear out of her broom and
Mm.
stuff. Um, Also, we learned that witches are aligned with cardinal directions, except there's no Witch of the South in this film. There is in the book, of course, but
That's because Glinda was an only child. Just saying.
uh witches also have familiars in this. In this case, it's a flying monkey. They use crystal balls to see what's happening around the world. We don't know where their powers come from, though. So in Häxan, it was clearly from the devil, but in this it doesn't really say. Although,
Mhm.
given the rebuke by the Christian woman of Anti-M, maybe it is supposed to be the devil that witches, or at least wicked witches, get their power from.
Maybe. Yeah.
Anyway, well, out of 10, there weren't any spell books in this, but we can still use spell books, or we can use copies of the original Wizard of Oz, or we can use whatever we want.
Ruby
What would you
slippers.
rate this? Ruby slippers, perfect.
Out of
Out
10
of
ruby
10
slippers,
rubies,
Pace. See what I did there?
um, yeah, I'd say 9. I still really love this film. It holds up really well. Like there's problematic things as we've talked throughout about, but like just what this movie does visually, the story it tells, its lasting impact in popular culture, especially in queer culture,
Mhm.
um, and the ways we can use it as a metaphor for things from the hidden God to listening to Pink Floyd albums to talking about queerness. Like it's just such a big film. So that's what I'd say. My favorite kill, there aren't many kills, but I guess my favorite kill is the Witch of the East, who we don't even meet. We just see her legs sticking out from under her house. So
Great. I 9.5. I can't quite give it a
yeah,
10 because there's enough things that didn't age well, but it is just so spectacular for its time and place. Um, and so I'm giving it a 9.5. And my
love it.
favorite kill is the Wicked Witch of the West because I love water. And if water is that powerful against evil, then all the more reason and
I mean,
justification for me pestering the people I love about drinking more water so that they hydrate instead of die straight.
we didn't even talk about we didn't even talk about the baptismal significance of wickedness being killed by water
Oh
in
yeah.
our deep
It's
dive.
like an
So we spared you
exorcism.
that. But
It's like an exorcism, right?
yeah. Yeah. Um, does it pass the HNAC test? I mean, it doesn't quite apply to this movie, but still
But it
Emily
kind of
interprets
does.
some aspects to it. So
I mean, it kind of does because so okay, first off, the witch does harm, but there's no repentance, right? Um, but then also
mhm.
like what about Dorothy and Auntie Em and Uncle Henry? Like Dorothy runs away. They allow her dog to be kidnapped,
Mhm.
which is harm. But then
Yeah.
also Dorothy runs away, which causes
Mhm.
harm. And there's none of them die,
Yeah.
but there is a sense of apology, at least from Dorothy.
Yeah, but none from Auntie Em or Uncle Henry, which is what frustrates me.
Yeah. So there's
And
like an
it's and Dorothy's harm, I think, as a child is nowhere near as great as the harm of her caregivers. So I feel like
oh
she,
yeah.
out of all the people who are apologizing here, she should not be the one who needs to. And yet she's the
Yeah.
one who does.
Yeah. Which is at least a little bit of it's hard for me to think of her as a 12-year-old kid. Um, because I think when you get to be a teenager, like there is more responsibility for
Yeah.
and accountability for the harm that you cause. But
Mhm.
yeah, as a 12-year-old kid, no, she shouldn't. Um, so I would say that it probably fails the Bechtel test. It
HNAC
probably
test.
fails the HNAC test because there is not a clear repentance, let alone movement to repair harm.
I think it passes the Bechdel test though, because Auntie Em and Dorothy talk to each other, and they're not talking about men.
Right, they talk
So
about the witch. Yeah.
yeah. So
So Bechtel, yes. HNAC, no.
now, did you have any jump scares for
I
this
did
awfully
not.
terrifying movie?
I did not. I think there have been times where something scares me in like one of the Wizard of Oz renditions, but not this time. Yeah.
Well, join us in 2 weeks from today for our next movie, which will be Black Sunday. Came out in 1960, directed by Mario Bava. And we'll have special guest Catherine Buck Clarenbach of Stone Circle Wicca Tradition on to talk about some of the ways that film and Black Sunday in particular, but film in general, just use pagan tropes and witch tropes and stuff to be awful and continue stereotypes and stuff like that. The movie, if you want to watch it ahead of time, is presently streaming at the time of this airing on Prime and on Shudder or AMC Plus, so you can find it there.
I'm excited for that. I think it'll be a great
Me too.
episode. And that's it for our show. Our theme music was by Matt May, Horror Nerds at Church. Our theme music was by Matt May. Our Wild Magic was by Suzannah Porter. Horror Nerds
Yes.
at Church releases seasonally with a live video on Tuesday evenings and audio on your favorite podcast providers on Thursdays. Please comment, rate, and subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Support us on Patreon and get access to exclusive movie commentary episodes, BooTube episodes, and more bonus content by going to patreon.com/horrornerdsatchurch. Starting at only $5 to sign up, it is certainly cheaper than paying to repair the damage of a tornado on your house.
Mm-hmm.
Follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Horror Nerds at Church, and Blue Sky and Twitter at HNACPOD for all the latest updates about upcoming films, news, and other announcements. Until next time, I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. Happy National Black Dog Day from Athena.